Got cheese and cheese and cheese, and then like two of my favorite cheeses, and then some more cheese for the bad times. Hey guys, what is going on? My name is Virtual Riot, and I'm gonna give you 5 tips on music production. First, I personally think an important theme for your song is important almost rather than a really like detailed and perfect mix down or anything. If you have a good idea, that can be worth so much more. A good example I always like to think of is, was it Pawn Step by Dodge and Fusky, or all the Big Rhythm Monster tunes, or something like Centipede by Knife Party, where you pick a topic and then you already have intrinsic logic kind of to all the sounds in the drop. For example, with Centipede, the main bass sounds like a crawling centipede if you think about it, with lots of little tiny feet. And like once you've picked a theme, you already have sort of a frame for all those sounds you're gonna make. It just sets you up with something that's easier to work with rather than just going into the blue and doing whatever. Oh yeah, with Pray for Rhythm, for example, I kind of arbitrarily picked the title, but then I thought, oh, Pray, you do that in a church. Let's start with a big church organ in the intro. Even if it's just a cool sounding song title, can give you a bit of a frame. I have a list of song titles on my phone even, just random combinations of words I sometimes hear throughout the day that I think sound cool, but they immediately give the whole thing a bit of a topic rather than just opening your project, you're opening your Ableton and making a new project and then you don't know where to go. Tip number 2. I personally think you don't need to be able to play an instrument to be good at producing, but some music theory knowledge can definitely help you. There's great producers and songwriters, much more successful than me, that barely know what scale or key they're in when they're writing, but their intuition is just amazing. So having a feel for what sounds good can be really helpful, but if you don't have like a genius-like intuition, it can really help you to know what scale you're in, to pick all the right notes, because sometimes, especially for musicians, it is rather easy to tell if a person that knows music theory has written a song, or if a person that is just using a scalar has written a song, because there's like a bit of a difference there and I don't know what it is exactly, the tension between the chords, the arrangement. So if you have any way of learning a little bit about music theory, that is definitely money well spent. I can recommend that. I've gotten in quite a bit of controversy about releasing my preset packs or sample packs, so here's tip number 3. It is okay to use samples. Obviously, in a genre like dubstep or drum and bass, your signature sound is rather important. So if you are in those kind of genres, you might want to develop your own sound eventually. But I personally, obviously, all my first songs were all just massive factory presets, and then I would slowly start learning how to sound design by editing them and learning about the synth. So just starting by using presets is nothing wrong with that. In fact, it can give you some insight into sound design. There's so much you can do with them, so as long as it's not an absolute, I don't know, something very recognizable, unedited, that already appears in other songs or something, yeah, to go ham on that. For example, just samples of single notes, for example. I love going through that on Splice, just like a single note of, I don't know, an Asian string instrument or a bell, and then you just put that into a sampler. You immediately have a playable instrument. Absolutely amazing. So nothing wrong with using samples or presets. So number 4, here's some tips what to do if you are lacking inspiration, or what I do if I lack some inspiration. So a classic would be, instead of just forcing yourself to write a song, just spend an afternoon making some presets for yourself, or making some drums, some cool sounds, put them in your own little library, and then next time you go and write a song, you have something to work with. You have some, you've already spent some time on the sound design process, so if you write a song, you're not gonna get stuck into, oh, now I have to spend 2 hours designing this bass sound. No, you've already done that, so you can just grab what you've made the other day, and then that's not going to hold you up when you're writing something and you're like in your workflow. So that can help. Set yourself a little challenge, like make a drum beat only using one sample, or make a whole song only using an 808. So that'll immediately trigger your creativity. You'll come up with interesting effects chains to like make an 808 sound like a melody instrument. Stuff like that I really like. I might do some videos in the future with that actually, I'd love to do that. And finally, number 5, mastering. We're gonna have a whole nother video about this, but it isn't as important and as crazy science as you might think. If you have a well-mixed track, all you need on your master channel might just be a limiter. People like Joyride or Skrillex don't have much more on their mastering channel other than a limiter, because the rest of the track is already so well mixed down that just pushing a little louder is all it needs. And that's essentially what mastering does. You can put an EQ and a multiband compressor on your master and a stereo widener. It probably will make it sound a little more fancy, but especially if you start doing that in an early stage of the production, or you might even have this on your default template project, then you might get stuck with this filter on during the entire production process, and then at the end it is already colored and you can't remove this color from your whole mixdown. So I know applying a really cool mastering chain always makes it sound a little bit better immediately and more fun, but try to refrain from doing that until the very last moment. I am also very guilty of, as soon as I get tired during production, I'm like, oh, let's put on the mastering chain, and then just hearing it in a little bit better quality immediately motivates me again to work on it. But sometimes it can set me up for failure at the end when I have to do the final mixdown, and I'm like, oh my god, I wish I hadn't done that. Now the whole thing is gonna just sound like this one color I picked in the mastering preset right there, and reversing it back to the original state, which just takes so long. So just throw a limiter on there, keep your mastering channel free, try to do that until the end, until you're in the final mixdown process. So that's something that can really help you. Thank you for watching 5 production tips with Virtual Riot. I hope you've learned something, and until next time.
Thanks for watching another Disciple video. We'll be bringing out more, so don't forget to like and subscribe, and have a lovely day.